So we have been talking about the loss of property rights, patent rights. Let's talk about the loss of your right to speak freely, to gather with people that you agree with, to petition the government. All of these things are going away, and a lot of them are going away because of what Senator Josh Hawley calls the tyranny of big tech. We welcome the senator from Missouri to the program. Hello, Senator Hawley. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
You bet. The news of the last couple of days has been how Facebook, Twitter, they're just going to continue to ban Donald Trump. And they're saying because he was part of that giant insurrection, the worst attack on our republic since the Civil War.
Yeah,
I don't think that's why they're banning him. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's why they're banning him is they don't like his speech, and they're banning him and can get by with it, Glenn, because they're monopolies. And all of their customers and consumers have nowhere else to go because there's no competition. So you think about, well, my gosh, I don't like what Facebook's doing. Where would I go? What platform would I go to that would be different than Facebook and have different rules? The answer is nowhere, because Facebook is a monopoly, and they are actively buying up competition and suppressing new entrants in the market. Ditto with Twitter. We saw Parler, a competitor to Twitter, try to get off the ground earlier this year. And what happened back in January? Well, Twitter and Amazon and Apple and Google got together and canceled Parler within the space of like 48 hours. So these are monopoly companies with monopoly power over speech, and we've got to do something about it.
So one of the things, you've written a new book called The Tyranny of Big Tech, and I think this is the one thing, I'm glad you're dealing with it. I mean, there's a lot of big talk in the Senate, but I don't see anybody actually going for the throat of people and doing anything, proposing anything that actually will change and release the chokehold they have. Part of it, I think, is because of money, but I think also part of it is they are so incredibly powerful because of the information that they have. Why is it we can't get our government to move on them?
Well, I think part of that is because big tech has purchased so much influence in Washington and on Capitol Hill. They have spent a decade or more purchasing lobbyist influence and think tank influence and academic influence and influence on congressional staffs in terms of staffers who they recruit to come join them. You know, it's really extraordinary. And you see how they really doubled down in this last election, dumping money into the Biden-Harris campaign. I mean, you talk about trying to buy access to the White House. These companies have done it, and that's one of the reasons why the Democrats right now are delighted with the power of big tech. They secretly love the monopoly status because these companies will censor in a way the government couldn't, and the Democrats want them to do that, and they want them to do more of it.
They politic all the time for them to do more of it. It is terribly frightening. I think they don't want Donald Trump back online because they know he can draw a crowd. And you don't want anyone who can unite the other side. They're too busy dividing. You can't have somebody that can unite and bring a coalition that can actually stand against this movement from the left.
No, that's exactly right. It's an effort to silence, on big tech's part, an effort to silence voices of opposition with whom they disagree and who represent a contrary view. You saw them do it back in the fall when they tried to suppress reporting on Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, locking the New York Post out of their account on Twitter, Facebook, not allowing the story to be circulated and distributed. I mean, you talk about a brazen intervention in a presidential election. I mean, trying to influence and stop the news during a presidential election, and then even more so in January, of course, where they deplatformed the former president, where they kicked bunches of conservatives off of Twitter and Facebook and these platforms, and where they canceled Parler. I mean, so this is real power, Glenn. This is monopoly power. And to your point about what we're going to do about it, we've got to break these companies up. We cannot try and go along to get along. You've got to break these companies up, and you've also got to give American citizens the right to go to court and to sue these companies if they take action against them based on political viewpoint. That's my view. Give Americans the power to go to court, break up these companies.
I'd like one more thing. They're making all this money because of all the information they're gathering on us. who I am, what I do belongs to me, not to them. Just because they have given me a device that allows them to follow me, I really don't like the power that they have of following me, monitoring me, analyzing me, predicting me. No, thank you. I'd like to opt out on that. And if you want to sell my information as I opt in, you can do that and you'll get a slice of it. But so will I.
That's right. And, these companies, their business model is built on taking our data and our personal information without our consent, to your point, Glenn, and then selling it or monetizing it without our permission and without any say from us of any kind. And I agree with you 100%. Individuals ought to be able to control their own information. It is private property. It's our private property. In the same way, families, parents ought to be able to control their kids' information.
Yes.
These tech companies track your kids around. They build dossiers on your kid. I say this as a parent of 3 small children. This is crazy, creepy stuff that they currently get by with, and we've got to stop it. We've got to give people control again over their own property, over their own data.
So I'm very libertarian in my views of business, and I have really wrestled with 2 things. In the past, I have wrestled with the, quote, robber barons. Many of those guys were not robber barons. Some of them were. And I've always wondered, when you amass so much wealth and power, how do you stop that from affecting everyone or infecting everything? And the only way that I can come up with that I'm comfortable with is you cannot lobby laws. The law and the government must be completely separate and blind from corporations. But I don't think that's possible. How do you stop because these, I think you would agree with me, the people like Zuckerberg will be remembered as really bad robber barons, taking from people, getting rich, and then doing what they want, and many times against the interest of the people.
That's certainly how they're behaving now, Glenn. There's no doubt about it. And I think when you look at American history, where we draw the line, those of us especially who believe in free markets, who believe in free competition, and who believe in capitalism, where we draw the line is to say, we want people to be successful. You bet. We want businesses to be successful. Yes, we do. What we do not want to see, though, is a business amass a bunch of market power and then use it to suppress competition, and use it to suppress innovation, and use it to try and control the political process, which is what we're seeing from these tech companies. That's, I think, where we need to draw the line. I mean, and my view is that breaking up monopolies reinforces the market because it introduces new competition. So I'd like to see more competition. I'd like to see more businesses. I'd like to see more choice for consumers out there. And if we had more competition, these guys would have less power. But right now, the amount of power they have is frightening.